Time now for Football Night in New York as we're joined by SNY NFL insider Ralph Vacchiano. And Ralph, what are you hearing as far as the severity of the injuries suffered by the Giants offensive players?
Well, the early word is that it's mostly good news. I was told that Saquon Barkley suffered a sprained ankle, and they don't believe it's a particularly serious one, which is amazing considering how bad it looked. No breaks, no torn ligaments or tendons or anything. So they think it will be a short-term injury. It still might be 2 to 3 weeks for him, but it certainly looked like for a while that it could be longer than that. So that would be good news. I was told Daniel Jones was doing better after the game, but he'll be in concussion protocol, and that's going to make it close for next week. Those are tricky. He can't really get on the practice field until Friday, so they're going to have to wait and see on that. And Kenny Golladay said he hyperextended his knee. He wasn't 100% sure. He thought he might be okay, but he'll find out with an MRI on Monday. So fingers crossed that as bad as this was, it may not turn out to be long-term absences for anyone.
Yeah, obviously it could have been a whole lot worse as it appeared on Sunday. All right, Kadarius Toney had a phenomenal game but ended it with a monumental mistake. What could the ramifications be of his ejection?
Well, he could be looking at a suspension. Certainly, that's a possibility for anybody who throws a punch on a football field. It's not a guarantee. It is his first offense, and they'll, kind of factor that in when they make a decision. So he might end up with just a fine instead. They'll also take into account the fact that he wasn't the instigator. It doesn't help that he retaliated with a punch, but he was the guy who was shoved first. So all of that will help him, but discipline could come, and discipline could come from the team too. Joe Judge wouldn't talk about it. He'll let the league rule first, but certainly he could make him sit for a period of time if he can afford to do that. He might be the only receiver left standing, so he might not be able to, but the league will act first, and then the Giants will handle it internally.
All right, now to the actual outcome and scoreboard. There was obviously plenty of conversation during the week about Troy Aikman's comments that the Giants weren't in the same class as the Cowboys, but a 24-point Dallas win supports his point. Just how wide, in your eyes, is the gap between Big Blue and Big D?
Well, given all the injuries right now, it's huge. I mean, you take away Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and they're not really even playing in the same league as well as the offense kind of held it together for a little while in that game. But I think Troy Aikman sort of had a point in that the Cowboys offense is explosive and loaded with weapons, and they can score 30-plus, 40-plus points per game. The Giants aren't in that class yet. Even with everybody working great, they were still averaging 20 points a game. They still hadn't scored 30 this season. So they've got a long ways to go to keep up with the Cowboys offensively. And if all these injuries do turn out to be something serious, they're not even close to being in the Cowboys class right now.
All right, Ralph, we have to be pretty quick with this last one. You mentioned that the Cowboys have an explosive offense, but once again, the Giants D not making really the plays that we saw from them a year ago. What's missing from this Giants defense right now?
Yeah, it's been so disappointing. I think there's two things. One is the secondary does not look as good as it did last year, but I think you can trace that to the pass rush. There is no Giants pass rush right now, certainly not a consistent one. Leonard Williams hasn't been as good as he was last year, and all of that is having a cascade effect. It's a lot of why the secondary looks so bad. They're just not getting any help from the guys up front.